we'll try to go around. You can see them on your screen right there. We've got Kevin Daraspino. He's a programmer. There he is.
Hello.
We'll get your GQ look in a minute. Jake Flensham, you can't see him, but he's here with us. He's a 3D modeler. Of course, the one, the only, he's a rock star because basically he created some of the most iconic maps in tactical shooter history. Art director for HR World's Elite, Russ Phillips, joining us from the Pacific Northwest. What's going on, buddy?
Good. Sunshine in the Northwest.
Right on. We're going to talk. We might talk about the Seahawks and stuff here in a second.
Ha. All right.
Okay. And of course, Tom, the studio president, and the guy there in the middle. You've all been waiting to ask your questions, and we're going to let you do that today. Creative director for Soft Studios, David Sears. Now, we were also going to have Pink on. She couldn't make it, so we just want to give her a big hug because she's so fantastic and great. And as we get towards the end of this broadcast, we're going to try to let you guys answer some questions. So just be patient, and I'm sure we'll touch on some of the things you guys want to talk about. First, though, I think that Tom wants to address everybody, and he wants to start everything off. So I'm going to turn it over to Tom, the studio president.
Hey, everybody. Thanks, Patrick, for the intro. Just a real quick shout out to everybody. Fantastic job on Steam Greenlight. We did it in 9 days. Pretty amazing. So it goes out to everybody following the studio, helping the studio since its conception, and you guys continually to amaze me and make my job a lot easier when I do talk to investors and publishers, because there's proof in the numbers, and you guys definitely aren't putting your feet up and putting your hands behind your head, taking a break on the sidelines. So I appreciate all your help, and I'll let the smart folks who power this studio talk, and I'll jump on a little later to explain a little bit about the funding process and where we sit as a studio. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Tom. First of all, I'm excited. I think everybody here in the studio is super excited. The last 3 or 4 weeks really have just been a crunch time for us here. And I will let David address this for the most part. But David, why don't you tell the folks out there where we are with the game or the proof of concept right now?
Wow. Okay. Basically, we're done. I think that's fair, and that's not just the demo. That's like me personally. I'm exhausted. We have we're just testing, trying to shake out the last few bugs. I mean, that's it. It plays great. It looks good. It's addictive. We've managed to recreate the core gameplay like we promised, and we've proven that this team, just about everyone who's worked with me before, but not all of us together as one group, can actually deliver in a very short time frame, on the epic promise of recreating a gameplay style. So that's the state of the proof of concept. I really dig it. We were able to sort of sneak in some visual improvements at the last minute. I was telling Russ about the Vampire Grotto he hasn't seen yet that I added myself. But among other things, we've got a full UI now, and it's very, very simple to set up games and join, and that's really gratifying. So that's basically the state of it. 6 months, and we did it. It was insane, but we did it.
And I think you and I talked a little bit about this the last time, but there were people who you consider friends and colleagues within the industry. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they basically said that not only is this improbable considering the budget and the personnel that we had to do this, but some even said you wouldn't be able to do it. So it's got to be huge for you.
Oh yeah, I am totally a creature driven by a finely tuned sense of revenge, and proving people wrong is what keeps me going. That and all of the support from all of our supporters and followers, obviously. Yeah, I mean, we did this with an extremely tiny budget, and I know everyone who's been following us since Kickstarter last summer. They saw the final number, and and it was, you know, it was $250,000. That's public record. But even if we could spend every penny of that just making the game, that's still a drop in the bucket of what a AAA, you know, shooter would cost. And internally at major publishers, they spend that much on concept art, you know, for a game. And what we were able to do was recreate the core gameplay, the features, the mechanics, and a medium to large size map, you know, for a fraction of a concept art budget. I like saying that. I'm going to probably say that a lot. But we didn't even get all that money because, you know, Kickstarter takes their cut, which I think is like 10% off the top. And we offered really cool swag because we wanted everyone who supported us to have, you know, choice items that were durable and distinctive. So that was a really, really big chunk. I mean, we didn't make this thing with, you know, the $250K we saw on Kickstarter. And I have to thank everybody, all my friends in the industry who pitched in and gave us favors along the way. You know, we couldn't have done it without you. People came out of the woodwork to contribute props or, you know, technical expertise or just to be advisors and mentors. You know, and all this is, you know, budget-wise, that's great and it's awesome. And we probably got, you know, $5 for every dollar we actually spent in terms of the end result. But at the same time, you know, it was the first time for us using this particular engine. I don't think, you know, in you know, a blaze of hubris, you know, having been doing this for 24 years, I decided that we would use an engine that had been, you know, been around the block and was well documented, a last gen engine, but, you know, one that we had not used, none of us really. And, you know, the first week, I wanted to pull out what remains of my hair and gouge out my eyes. But, you know, after a few weeks, it all made sense and we could see why people used it and it did exactly what we wanted. And by comparison, I was able to go in just a few days ago and add Vampire Grotto to the game in a matter of, you know, less than an hour. That's huge. So in the end, it turns out it was the right choice for the engine, and you know, to the team's credit, you know, they made it work. First time using this engine, so, you know, amazing.
You talked about the engine. Now, so far we've kind of been we've kept that. I don't know that if we've kept it close to our vest, but can we reveal to everybody what engine the proof of concept was developed on, and maybe even what the actual full production game will be developed on?
Yeah, unless somebody stops me in the next 5 seconds, I'm going to tell you.
I don't think I can get over there fast enough.
Exactly.
Right.
And there were visual clues. I mean, you might have seen the UDK handbook, you know, under my glass desk, and a picture that was tweeted early on or posted early on. And that's what we did. We used Unreal 3. The guys at Epic were super helpful in answering our questions, and, you know, of course, made it available to us. And they're just up the street from us, technically. As the crow flies. So that made sense. You know, we wanted something that, or I wanted something, and I dragged everybody else along with me. We wanted something that, you know, people had used a lot. And even though it was last gen, we got pretty good, you know, we got pretty good graphics performance out of it. You know, one thing we could have done is we could have pushed it a lot further, but since we'd never used this, you know, ourselves, we were a little bit conservative in the beginning. But before it was over, you know, we'd added like 5,000 individual items of foliage, and, you know, the engine never really slowed down, so it was awesome. You know, and it was also kind of a mystery. Could we make a game that played, you know, in that classic style that we wanted, using Unreal? And that was kind of a mystery. But, you know, my instinct and the research I did said, yeah, we can do it, and we did. And we have no reason to believe that migrating to Unreal 4 for the full game production is, you know, going to reveal, you know, anything counter to that.
Now, a lot of people, especially the last few months, we've been trying to get people to understand that this is a proof of concept. At first, we called it a demo. That kind of got blurred. The lines got blurred, so we had to explain it's a proof of concept. Now we've talked about beta for this. What exactly? Can you explain what beta means to everybody watching, and what that means to us as a studio being in beta?
Yeah, of course. I'll attempt to answer all of those embedded questions that you've just laid on me. Well, first of all, what we're making is, or have made, is a proof of concept, and it became obvious after approaching investors for most of a year before we launched the Kickstarter campaign that everybody wanted to see something. Nobody believes unless they can see it. In spite of the track records of everyone involved in making it and the will to power to make it happen, you have to show people a demo. And typically, we say proof of concept because we have to prove that this is a good concept and people will enjoy it. We have to prove that this team can work together to create this proof of concept. So those were our primary goals in making our proof of concept, or our demo. It was basically all about recreating that core gameplay style. So where we are right now is in beta with the proof of concept. There are a few bugs that we want to iron out, and we can do that sort of behind the scenes, but it's ready to show. And it's ready to show all those people who needed, dancing pixels in order to believe that we could do the things that we knew we could believe, and that most of the community believed that we could do. So that's where we are now. People always, I get at least 5 messages a day asking if there's been a beta announcement. Is there any update? And I'm just going to say no, because the beta is months and months away after we're fully funded. We have to be in production for the full game to make the full game in order for you to have a full game beta to play. It's right now what we have is our proof of concept to show publishers and investors. And yes, high-level Kickstarter backers are going to get a version of that to play themselves. But for right now, in terms of the open beta and the private beta, that's months and months and months away. Just to be clear, there's, it's not tomorrow, it's not next month. It's, after we're fully funded and, the team's been cranking on the full production.
Can you guys talk about? I mean, I think I know what's going on, but for those out there watching, can you talk about the progress of the funding search and investors and things like that?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'll answer that question. So right now, just like we said in Kickstarter, we're making that proof concept so we can show somebody factually that we have the capability. And I think we've done that in spades. And obviously with the following and everybody pushing the studio in the right direction, like I said, the 9 days on the Steam being greenlit is something pretty extraordinary, and it helps me put that in my pocket. And after you dig deep and find the analysis and put numbers and names and in the right spot, it just solidifies that we know what we're doing. We can make this happen, and again, it makes my job a lot easier. So yesterday we talked about, or David sent out a tweet that I was up looking and talking to investors, and that was a fact. They do want to hear from us, but there's 2 different people that want to be a part of this game. You have publishers and you have investors, and there's just 2 different types of funding streams. And obviously the publishers know about H-Hour, they know about the games industry, but when you talk to investors, that's a different group of folks who normally don't understand the game space, and it's our job to educate them on that. So that talk up in Raleigh was a good talk for me, because it led me into another group of folks who would like to hear what we have to say on the investor side. And then on the publisher side, we do have people that are interested, but I think what I said before was, it's not very fast. It's not something to say, hey, here's all of our money, let's make this game. We have to pick the right publisher. We've seen it before. You guys have seen it, that publishers would come in and they mess up that secret sauce that you guys want to see, and we can't afford to let that happen. So I'd much rather let an offer go by that's not going to produce the outcome that we want. So So we're there. There's people interested. I am talking to publishers and investors, but it does take time. And David and I are definitely head down and charging forward from here on out. And that's our main goal now, is to put this game on the platforms that we've promised. So, we're there, and people are interested, and I'm pretty excited about it.
They do seem excited about it, and again, I want to say, just on a personal note, I really love, there's days that we come in here and it's not easy to be excited, and it's not easy to be energetic, and the support that we see out there, and I'm sure everybody here can they will agree with me on this. It's awesome when you see all the support you get on the outside. It makes you want to show up for work and do your job. I want to talk to Mr. Phillips out there in out west. I know you guys touched on this, Russ, in the beginning during the Kickstarter and all this stuff about the old team getting back together. Just talk a little bit about how exciting it's been coming back together with David, and do you guys still have the magic? Are you excited about working on this project?
Yeah, sure. We do have that magic. I guess you call it magic.
It's magical.
But, I kind of figured it would be a pretty smooth transition just to start working with you guys and David and create the map that we created already. But it couldn't have gone any better, really. I mean, it was a lot of back and forth in the beginning, figuring out the layout and knowing what David wanted to do in the map. Kind of going back and researching what we had previously done on the maps that people love to play, and what worked, what didn't. Even just listening to the community and getting online and reading some of the forums and things like that helped in the beginning. But after that kind of settled down, it was just hard at work for months and months of just cranking out buildings and props and all kinds of stuff to get into this map. And at some point, we both knew where the layout was going to go, and we had to, at some point, just set it in stone so we could start polishing and things like that. And we felt pretty confident the map was laid out really well, and there was no hiccups, no major changes, no major problems that came up. I mean, it just went so smooth. I couldn't believe it. It was really cool.
Yeah, it was like, I mean, we had basically worked out all the kinks 10 years ago.
Yep.
And I mean, as usual, I gave Russ an isometric map from paper that I scanned and a list of photo references. And then he went and did the layout with Monopoly houses. But, which was great. I mean, we iterated some in the beginning, but, once that was locked, I could trust him to just go. I didn't have to call Russ every couple of days and have a scrum meeting and demand to see progress because I knew he was doing it. And then one day he checked in this level, that was great to play. And then another time he checked in the level and I was like, oh my God, there's art in this entire corner, Yeah. So it went extremely well. But we've done it before, so I'm glad we made our mistakes early and are profiting from them now.
Yep.
Well, now David talks about the liberating feeling of being in an indie environment, and I've been saying this for months or for last year that indie development, I think there's a strong resurgence. I don't know if it's economy. I don't know if it's the infrastructure of the industry. But Russ, as an art director, have you enjoyed being able to do this? I'm assuming that you probably had a lot more liberty to do what you want to do. And
yeah, completely. Yeah, it was. That's what I liked about it. I mean, just the creative freedom, the back and forth where I'd send David a few pictures. He sent me a few pictures to start it off, and then I started researching on the internet, the area and stuff, the look that we wanted to capture. And I also got like a prioritized list of the things. If we were going to cut anything, what did David specifically want to see in the map for sure? And that helped. So, I mean, it made it so much easier and made us more flexible to, working as a small team again and everything, to just get it done, not fight over this or that or, all this stuff and have decisions take 3 weeks to make. It just kind of...
You said
that doesn't happen anywhere, right?
No, I've never heard of that.
Nope. But yeah, that's what this is all about, is kind of that smooth flow and getting it done. So that's why it worked out so well, I think, in my opinion. The short amount of time that we created so much was because of that.
Now, some of the other people here in the studio, David, and namely, I'm going to let you talk a little bit about, of course, we had Yves Perron. He was one of the programmers for this proof of concept. But I think the guy that I know the guy that surprised me, stunned me every single day. It's like having it's like having a Russell Wilson in your backfield. But Kevin Daraspino, talk a little. Yeah, he did the GQ. But talk a little bit about the things that you've seen from Kevin. And of course, he shipped a couple of games, but this is probably his first real studio environment.
Yeah, well, if you can call it that. It's a studio, and it's an environment. Absolutely. Kevin sits next to me over there. You can see me waving behind him right now. Kevin is the kind of genius-level programmer that is unaware of his capabilities. Either that, or he's very, very sly, and he doesn't like to let on that he knows. His favorite thing to do is predict how long something will take, and then proceed to do it in 5 minutes. This morning, there was a bug, and he said, this is going to take me 2 hours. And then 5 minutes later, as usual, he had finished, and it worked great. It was a great play test. So that's Kevin. My favorite thing to torture him with is stuff he doesn't know how to do. I know he is going to learn how to do it very, very quickly. He might complain a little bit, which I ignore. And then he just does it, usually in just a few minutes. So working with Kevin's been great. I think the way I described it to him this morning, he was one of those people who doesn't know what he can't do, so he just does it, and it works great. And that's awesome to have on your team. There you go.
Thanks. I was going to ask Kevin, similarly, what's it been like? I know what it's been like working with me. I'm a pleasure to be around. But talk about what it's been like working on this game.
I don't know. It's been really smooth. David
That's a lie,
gives me documents, and pretty much it lays out everything I got to do. So it's only a few times I have to be like, "Hey, David, what do I need to do? How do I do this?" So it's, I don't know. And he also gives me this big giant whiteboard over here with what I got to do, and I just you don't have to ask. It's all laid out. So I don't know. And he's hilarious. I can kind of pop an attitude with him, and he won't say you're fired. Not really.
There's he might say, but he hasn't yet. How much influence has the community had on this project compared to other projects you've worked on, David?
Actually, it's been a tremendous influence. We're getting a lot of reverb now, all of a sudden.
Yeah, I heard that too.
So I hope you can still hear me. It's been huge. It's for various reasons I've never been able to or permitted to engage with a gaming community. And this is a long-standing community with a lot of opinions, and that's pretty impressive to be able to just read posts, from these guys, but even more incredible is being able to treat them as sort of a random access memory of infinite size, complexity, and personality, because it's like carrying around an encyclopedia without having to have all that in your brain at all times. And that's a huge relief because, people are pointing out things that, have been eroded in my memory by the sands of time. And that is incredible. And I don't expect it to go away. I think that, it's the only downside to this is there's so much information headed my way like a tsunami all the time. Learning to surf that has been a challenge. I do try to reply whenever I see something come up, but it's Twitter and Facebook is better for that than forum posts because I don't get a notification when someone posts to the forums. And if it comes down to, hey, I've got to get this part of the game done today, or spend 5 or 6 hours reading the forums, the game wins. Having said that, I've read a ton of stuff already, way beyond the scope of what we were going to target for our proof of concept. So when this is done, in fact, in the very near future, I'll have a lot more time to, sort of peruse the data that everyone's generated.
How important is it going to be? Let's say we get funded tomorrow. How important is it going to be, do you think, especially with this fan base? How important moving forward,
Okay.
even if we get funded, how important is that, the connectivity between the studio and the fan base? How important is that moving forward?
Well, that's certainly not going to go away. Like I just said, my brain capacity is not sufficient to carry around every fact about games in general and some specific games that will list. So that's not going to change. Hopefully, I'll get some help to kind of collate and harvest all this data. But it's a very passionate community. I've gotten to know quite a few. I mean, going all the way back to Kickstarter, people I never would have met, just as a game developer at a big publisher. But because we're indie, it can be more personal. I like it. I like it a lot. And of course, knowing these people, and I'm talking to you guys, you're very passionate. If I decided to sever all ties, I'm pretty sure that you'd grab your pitchforks and torches and mob up, and that's not something I want to experience. So it's going to be the same, if not more engaged.
And don't forget, guys, please stick around because we are going to try to get to some of your personal questions. If you have any questions, please hit us up on Twitter at Soft Studios. Over on Facebook, you can network with us, of course, on our website, softstudios.com. And we will try to answer as many questions as we can get to today. We don't want to keep everybody from putting the finishing touches on everything. I've got a few right here. I got one question. Why so much scope sway? Because the view distance is much further, question mark.
Well, that's exactly it. If you look at the early games, and I think Russ and I used to joke about this all the time, the view distance was about 20 meters. We put this big curtain of brown fog over anything 20 meters away because we couldn't draw it. That was old hardware. And one of the issues that becomes immediately apparent, we knew this going into our proof of concept phase, any angular movement is exaggerated over distance. So, we didn't put any fog in at all in the demo just to see what would happen. And as predicted, it's just like a moon launch or a mission to Mars. If your calculations are off even slightly, you miss the planet or you miss the satellite. It's the same thing with aiming with a scope. If you're running around and trying to shoot something over a great distance, every angle that you're off target is exaggerated tremendously. So we knew we were probably going to have to impose artificial fog on some maps where we couldn't constrain the sight lines with architecture or rocks or whatever. And we knew we were going to do it, but we didn't do it for the proof of concept. Proof of concept is a bright sunny day in Serbia.
Yeah. If they have bright sunny days in Serbia, and I'm assuming they do.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Now you and Tom spent some time, or not Tom, but you and Russ, didn't you guys? No, you guys were in Poland, right?
Epic, Poland. Yeah.
Russ, I've heard all of the epic war stories from over in Poland.
I know. Haven't the videos got out yet?
Yeah, they went out months ago.
Really?
And
Wow.
he missed.
I'll
I
send
mean,
you
the videos, the actual videos of us over there. Oh,
Yes. Yes.
They haven't gotten
You
back.
in you in the blizzard in Africa. It was awesome.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a great trip.
How difficult is it going to be? Because I mean, look, at the end of the day, this is a very specific classic core game. So how difficult is it going to be to reach that a much broader audience? And like you said, we won't mention the names, but there's a lot of games out there that have got people's attention. How are we going to reach that much broader audience?
Sure. There's a couple of approaches. I've talked about them before, but it's always worth bringing up again. The first is configurability. Allow people to adjust as many parameters as they would like, or to choose packages of presets to create the kind of gameplay they really, really want. If you want to go hardcore or classical, great. That's our default. You want something that's a little more respawn friendly and kinder and gentler and maybe has aim assist, you can do that too. That's not the core. By designing the core, the classic core, the way we have, it gives us a huge amount of configurability through parameters that players can control. The second is our approach is to community and clan outreach. Huge number of clan and community support tools are planned. And of course, Analytics Sergeant, which is all about helping people play the game the way, to be more efficient, more accurate, deadlier, and work better in teams, which is going to have a really broad appeal. I mean, I can imagine someone who's been afraid of a military shooter, doesn't want to go online and get owned immediately, working with something like our Analytics Sergeant to improve their skills so that they become average very quickly and are not immediately humiliated, which comes later.
Which comes later when people start dancing on your corpse. What about things like, I don't know, I think a gimmick in the industry lately has been like 3D and motion control. Will we ever see anything like and this is I don't remember who asked this question, but somebody wanted to know about Move Controller, Oculus Rift, things like that. Is that something that we'll think about for this particular iteration, or maybe down the road?
Sure, we'll think about it. By and large, something like the Move I don't think is well suited for this kind of game, just because holding a weapon is difficult over time. It's okay for about 5 minutes, and then your armpit starts to hurt and your wrist is twitching, and
your forearms and your feet and your neck and I'm sorry, flashback. Go ahead, Dave.
Exactly. I'm interested in VR headsets, although every VR headset I've ever tried has triggered a migraine that lasts 3 days or more in me. It'll be interesting to see how people generally react once these things are deployed in a serious way. Whatever. Sure. Oculus, maybe, who knows. The Sony version, possibly. But I mean, what it really boils down to is, supporting something like that takes away development money from the core. It takes away from the number of maps or characters or weapons that we can do. I mean, really, do people want us to give up on, content, features, and mechanics in order to support a piece of hardware that most of them will not have initially? Sure, down the line, why not? It can be part of an update. And if some publisher comes to us and says, we would like you to support the Oculus Rift and we will give you $10 million, then I would seriously consider it. But, we have enough on our plates just making, this game great for 2 platforms. Adding another peripheral just confuses things and makes testing that much harder.
Right. Now, guys, if you haven't gotten over to the forums, as I mentioned a minute ago, be sure to go on over to softstudios.com, and you can hook up with us there. David, I know, makes a point to go into the forums, and he will talk to you on Twitter. He will talk to you on Facebook. This is, I've said this a couple of times. Would you not agree that this has been unprecedented access to the early stages of the development of a game? I've never seen it in the industry.
Are you talking to me?
I'm talking
because to me it feels unprecedented, because I feel like I've shown up for work in, like a Soviet era nuclear submarine reactor room, and I'm totally naked. I have,
yikes.
Yeah. You know how awesome that is.
That's awkward.
Yeah, but as analogies go, it's pretty on point. It is unprecedented for me. It's very strange to be sort of at the forefront of discussions publicly all the time, and I very innocently will show people work in progress, or something we're proud of because, hey, we did this ourselves, and, or I'm not an artist, and yet I did this thing which let us, finish our proof of concept. And, the first comment I see is, yeah, that's great, but, get a real artist. And I'm like, I'm giving you the stuff. Nobody gets to see this stuff, and it's a work in progress, sure, but, it's that part's tough, but it's great to, like I was saying earlier, it's really great to be able to engage in general.
Oh, I think I know for a fact, and I've seen it happen right here in the studio. We have an idea that we think is going to work. We try it, and then everybody in the community says, "I don't like it. It's not the right color. It's not whatever." We saw it with the reticle. We saw it with some of the other things in the game. And to me, that's what's going to make this game so special, is that I think everybody out there playing it is going to feel like they had their thumbprint on the development. Let's get to another question. And, everybody has asked this question. And look, I'm trying to be as professional as possible. But if I get one more question about the guy being so lanky, the character in the game is so lanky. For once and for all, this is the last time I'm going to ask David to address this. If you can, address the character and his appearance.
Yes. I will do this one more time. Okay. So, I was saying earlier, some companies spend, our entire budget on concept art. We made a whole vertical slice, including, a terrorist character, Special Operations Forces character, and a hostage character with animations, plus the whole rest of the game, for a very, very tiny amount of money in terms of making games. So, we didn't have time because, I was very clear, in order for us to get this done in 6 months, we had to be focused. And what were we focused on? Can we recreate the core gameplay style? Can we make it fun? And can this team do it together? Yes, but that means that, we're not going to be able to do a full physics rig with, facial bones, so that the character can emote, or, his skeleton is going to be absolutely height weight proportionate. No, we did what we had to do to get this thing done, and the character looks pretty darn good for our old school approach. With AAA funding, are we going to have vastly improved character rigs and animations? Of course, we're going to go to a motion capture studio again, and we're going to get all new animations. But what we've got from the demo phase is we know precisely the timings for control and play, character responsiveness. So that's a huge win. We went after the fun. We weren't chasing crazy AAA production values because it was impossible to achieve with the money we had. And if we had tried to spend the money on that, we would have no game at all. We'd have a broken mess that was unfinished. But instead, we've got a really addictive, fun, classic style gameplay to show people. So that's part of the reason the character looks lanky. The second reason is, in reality, these guys are not obese. I've never seen these guys come in the office and look, gigantically fat. They're lean. They're like, it's whipcord and whalebone. It's because the stuff they do requires them to be extremely fit. Yes, there are some statistical outliers, and they're big, bulky guys. But, according to Tom, a lot of the guys that have more mass tend to wash out before they actually, serve a long time in these outfits. And third, it's because of the aspect ratio. The field of view that we use in the game to give you that maximized situational awareness. If I gave you, a pure unaltered field of view, you would look more proportionate, but you would also see less of your world. And because we didn't have time to do special code to render the character differently relative to the environment rendering, we just went with what was fun. Mechanically, it works to have more situational awareness. It's like really being there, yes, we'll fix all those, niggling character issues and animation issues. But, we had to get the demo made. We had to make our proof of concept happen.
Well, and there you go. And that's the last time he's going to address that particular question.
Probably not.
Well, probably not. Well, and it's what I tell people is we're not guessing at this. Like you mentioned, we actually, and we're very fortunate to have these men. These extraordinary men at our disposal, and if something's not right, and that's what's great, and you've talked about this several times. In the past, you've had to make a phone call or you've had to set up an appointment for consultation. But now, and we've got it drawn on the door here, if we don't know how something really is, or if we need advice about how something looks or behaves or whatever, I've seen it happen many, many times where Tom says it would never do that, or it doesn't do that, or it doesn't look that way. And that's got to be huge for us here. Russ, I better get back to you. We'll talk about the Seahawks later, but let's talk about if we get funded tomorrow. What's the process for the art director? Do you sit down and start coming up with ideas, or is it the other way around? Does David start coming up with ideas for the maps? And explain to everybody who aren't in the know exactly how that process works.
Yeah, I think we would work together on that. We've already actually talked about it. So we talked about a few, the future and what maps we would start next, what kind of locations we like and the look that we like. And I don't know, we got a couple ideas that I know we're going to jump on right away. But I don't know, it's collaborative. We work together on it and agree on something. David says yay or nay. It's pretty simple.
It is pretty simple for the most part. If we get funded tomorrow, guys, and Tom, you can chime in on this. I saw the question in the stream here. Somebody says, "Will H-Hour be at E3?" So I will let you guys address that. Will H-Hour be at E3?
Well, that kind of depends on the nature of the funding. If it's a publisher and they want us to go to E3, yeah, we'd go to E3. What we would show is up in the air. But yeah, it really depends on, the marketing demand, I suppose.
Right on. So there's the answer to your question. Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. If you know somebody with a couple of mil, tell them to give us a call. Another question here from the stream. They want to know about more specifics about clan support, size of clans, things like that. Are we? Do we have that information for them right now?
Yes, I can talk about it. I'll just hit a few highlights. So, all the stuff that you would expect, like being able to send invitations via social media from your game and accept invitations from your game, managing your roster, setting up tournaments, clan challenges, all that kind of stuff. That's what's planned. I think in terms of the size, it always bugged me that people had to split their clans across multiple clan groups. I mean, what century is this? I'm pretty sure that, what are we at? 64-bit, 128-bit? I think we can handle numbers that large. So I don't know what the actual final size is, but it's going to be for all intents and purposes, big enough to accommodate, even the largest clans. All that kind of stuff. Yes. I'm not, obviously it's not in our proof of concept, but it is in the design document.
Now, we keep talking about the proof of concept. You mentioned earlier where we were at in the production of said proof of concept. Mm-hmm. What are the chances that we're going to show them some actual? What are the chances we're going to let them see the game in action in the very near future?
Good. We'll probably do a live video this week of us actually greening up and playing. The game's running right behind me here, and of course we'll be showing some us playing.
So everybody in the stream, we're going to try to wrap this up here in just a few minutes, but really quickly, try to get your questions in, and we'll try to answer some questions from the stream right now.
Can I just say?
Oh. I got one. Hold on. I got one. Okay, this is for Rev. I will tell you now that I will change that backpack on that individual. It won't look like you think it will. So the backpack, the back panel will change once we get fully funded to be a little bit more realistic and less follicle.
Wow. Now I'm really uncomfortable.
All right.
That goes back just to talking in the chats and the forums and stuff like that. So it goes back to what David was saying too. We're going to make it the best we can off of a more realistic back plate and all those things. So yeah, it's just another one of those things I saw flying through the chat that I had addressed. So it's simple. It's easy day.
And you had something to add, David?
Yeah, I get asked this a lot. Why don't you guys get in, magazines? Why aren't there stories being written? And I'm like, I don't know. My favorite thing to read is, not much is known about the mysterious game H-Hour, but it looks promising and has potential. I don't know where this is coming from, but that's the only story most people, see outside of, what we push. So hopefully we'll hear back from some press soon.
Yeah, well, and we do have some exciting things planned, but again, we'll let everybody know exactly what's going on. And we should thank everybody on the back end here, of course, Rosie, Pink, James, everybody that makes everything happen behind the scenes, that keeps us rolling. And all the moderators, thank you very much. They work for free and spend a lot of time in the forums answering questions that we just don't have time to answer. I think, let's see, I think I just got another question here. Let me check on it. Will there be, okay, this is actually a pretty good question. I missed who asked this question. Everybody's asking about post-Kickstarter swag, i.e. T-shirts, hats, unicorn plushes, everything else, spicy chicken skin. Will there be a store? Will there be an H-Hour store in the very near future? Anyone?
Yeah, I'll answer that. Yes, of course. As far as with the Kickstarter swag and opening that up as a store, our stance on it now is if you gave to Kickstarter or supported us early, seeing those iconic things out there, we'll be able to see it from a distance once we do open up a store or we get funded and different types of designs start coming out. So, our stance is, those things that were made for Kickstarter will stay at that Kickstarter or grassroots level, and then when we open up a store, we'll have different designs. And again, when we see that at a trade show or wherever, and you're wearing an old school H-Hour, that just means you were part of that that early foundation of helping us get to where we're at today.
Yeah, well, and we're all very, very excited, and I implore everyone out there within the sound of my voice, tell your friends, tell your neighbors. Get over to Steam and support us over there. Facebook, Twitter, make yourself available to us, and we'll in turn make ourselves available to you. I feel really great about being here. It's an honor to be in the studio every day with such passionate, intelligent, hilarious people, and it means a lot to me to be here. Thank you to the community, and Tom, I think you had something you wanted to add.
Yeah. So what's the next steps for the community, and what's the next step for the studio, or what we're going to do for you guys? Again, for us, it's full steam ahead with the funding and getting publishers interested, getting investors interested, and taking a look at the studio and allowing us to get in front of them to talk. So if you guys have information of good studios or publishers that you think may be interested, go ahead and drop us a line. It can't hurt. Send them our way. We'd love to talk to them. And yeah, I mean, you guys have brought us this far, and we are definitely not over yet, because in my world, we're right at the objective right now. So we're planning, we're prepping, and the actions on the objective are the most important part, and that is the funding. So without that, we're going to have some cool shirts to talk about, but I truly believe with all the backing, with all the stats that I'm reading coming in from Rosie and Pink and the rest of the crew, it's a phenomenal step forward. So keep up the good work. Any idea is a great idea. Keep posting them on the forums, like Patrick was saying. And yeah, every bit helps, because we do look at it, and we're going to find that publisher or investor that's going to make the best game out there. So thanks again for your time. All the mods, all those folks, Cord over at Platform for helping us with the trailer, and just a phenomenal group of talented professionals that came together to put some of their their time and effort into it when they have extremely busy schedules, and I'm extremely humbled by that, and I know we're just going to knock this out of the park. So that's really all I had to say, and thanks for everybody's time during the business day.
I want to say howdy to Glenn over at PlayStation Nation. Thanks for your support, sir, and thanks to everybody out there for your support. Happy Thumbs Gaming, all you other guys out there that are talking about the game and sharing, and EGL. Thank you very much. One more question, and we're going to wrap this thing up. And this seems like such a strange question, but it's something that I actually used to enjoy, proximity chat. David, yes or no, will there be proximity chat in HR Worlds Elite?
I think it's fair to say that there will be a parameter that governs proximity chat. And
all right, fair enough.
I'm a fan. I like it.
Yeah. As am I. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you to Russell Phillips. Thank you, sir, so much for being here. Tom, thanks a lot. Kevin, Jake, everybody here in the studio. Again, James and Pink and Rosie on the back end. Thank you very much for your support.
Love you guys.
Yeah, and love you guys at home watching right now. Thank you for your support. Green up, fired up. Let's rock and roll. Let's get this thing done. I think we're out of here.